we actually kicked in $293,367. So, so between that and the 100,000, the fund for future improvements was 393,367. So, a really nice outcome, and that was, I think, 25 different groups with 40 different people pledging that amount of 25 different pledges. So we really appreciate that, and so far we've gotten of the money promised. We have the $100,000 from the endowment, and then we have 202,000 of 800 of the money that all of you have pledged has come in. If you now think about it, the pledge was a year ago, so in this first year of its operation. So we expect the other 90,000 or so over the next 18 months. And the way we've thought about it is we've prioritized, as people have come up with the wish list of things that we might consider, we've prioritized them based on kind of year 1, year 2, and year 3. So that's sort of where we are now. We're now a year into the program, and the committee, many of whom are here. So there's Peter Hardigan, and there's Lonnie, and there's Mike Kirsten, and there's Tom Norris in the back. Karen Sanford is right there, and Gail is also on the committee, and myself. If you look around, those are the folks that know the most, me excluded, by the way, know the most about what the opportunities are around the church for improvement. They've crawled through basements and furnace systems and been up on the roof and the balconies and all that stuff. And so this group was trusted by council to in a sense vet the ideas that came in from them as well as the congregation, and then obviously the council is the final approval on the money that we spend. So far we have spent $81,660 in our first year of operation. And this will all be in the report, so don't feel like you have to take notes. So the largest expenditure was almost $53,000, and that was painting, if you know, the exterior of the Washington, the Mayflower building, the Agape building, Holden Hospital, the music room, all those kind of ancillary buildings and areas around there, as well as the trim and the windows on the lower front side of the sanctuary, not the upper side and not the big, tall where the cross is and all that stuff. But a significant amount of work, and so it's one of those subtle things that if you see it before and after, you'd say, "Oh, it looks so much better." We get so accustomed to seeing things, but to take a fresh look and just see, and you realize that the paint surfaces and all of that are much better, and of course protected because they did a lot of caulking and sealing and glazing and all the stuff that we need to make sure that the building stays sound during the period of time. We also put all this nice, wonderful carpet that you see and the redoing of the narthex there. There's probably more work still to be done, but it makes a much more inviting entry for our members and our guests when they come in. And that was, I think, about that was about $18,700. Additionally, there was some dry rot in some windows in the Mayflower room. That was $3,000 to replace 2 windows. In case you didn't know, windows are very expensive and also sort of hard to get because of the construction shortages and all that. And then we've done $5,000 to work on the sanctuary lighting to get it up to the level that it's at now. If you remember, we'd gotten to the point where we were almost a candlelit church there for a while as these older light fixtures started to fail, so we've got some improvements on that. And then we did some had a preliminary study done on the seismic thing. This building was built and specified in the late 50s and built, around 1960 or so. There are things that we should, based on code today, be looking at to ensure, the safety of our members and all the people who use our facilities, upstairs, downstairs, Holden, all that stuff. We have a bid for seismic. We'll talk about what we're going to be doing in the future. And it's pretty significant, the bid itself, and also what it might turn up in terms of things that we'll have to fix. So when we look at the roughly $300,000 or so that we have left in our pot to spend, we kind of have to, in a sense, we're taking a hold on spending it until we get through some of those really big testing. Oh, you need to be closer? Yeah, sorry. I didn't know if it was another hand signal or, okay, sorry about that. Let me just take this off, easier. So that's the big next step, is to get the seismic study done, and hopefully we'll find that there's not major improvements required, but if there are, then we want to have the money, kind of powder dry, if you will, to get some of that stuff fixed. But other things that we are looking at doing, one of the thoughts that had come is that we would paint the rest of the outside of the sanctuary and all that stuff. In looking around, outside the areas, there's the outside balcony, that kind of runs around. There's a lot of leakage from years, from cracks and all that. So the general view of the committee and the people who we've consulted with is, let's go fix all that stuff first before we go about painting, because if there are in fact water leaks, they're going to cause staining and dry rot and all that stuff. You want to get those things fixed before we invest, which is also another significant expenditure, into painting the outside of the church. We think that some of the paint is actually in pretty good shape around here, but probably when we get that all done, we'll take another look at it and say, all right, well, what do we want to make sure? Because paint obviously protects exterior surfaces, and we don't want the stucco and everything to kind of sort of chalk away over time. So we'll be looking at that. Other things that are in the pipe now and are working. Let me see if we can list up here. Sorry. There are, probably one of the biggest and most urgent ones is Tops, who, obviously has been a long-time tenant here and is a significant source of additional income for us, really needs us to replace those louvered windows. You've seen them if you've been in the library and stuff. We have a lot of these louvered windows. The problem with them are they don't insulate very well, and they certainly don't keep out the smoke during fire season. And with children, that's been a real issue when we've had these severe fire and smoke hazard days that we typically have more often now than next. So we will approve the money to replace, I think it's about 7 of those windows. They're a couple of grand a piece, including, the windows themselves are, I don't know, what were they, Alani, like $1,200 or $1,400, and then we got total $2,000, including installation on them. Yeah, so, yeah. And guess what? There's about 23 of those all the way around the church, and so we'll have to prioritize over time how we get those changed out. But they're really a substandard window from an energy efficiency standpoint, from a safety and security standpoint, and then obviously, from a fire standpoint. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. There's some drainage issues on the kind of the upper lawn there that we are, that we're taking care of, that again, if not fixed now, will have deleterious effect, going forward. We have, we're discussing also additional, rehabbing all of the campus lighting. It's old lighting, it's expensive to maintain, it draws a lot of current, and newer technologies with LED and all that are much more efficient, so we'll be looking at that. You may have seen when you drove in that the junipers have been removed per fire code. That's very luckily our brothers and sisters at OSV have agreed to fund that. So as part of their rehabilitation, they've taken out those junipers. What we'll have to do is actually do the landscaping, to re-landscape it so that we don't lose that hillside from erosion. So that will come out of next 80 funds. Additionally, the main water pipe coming up from the street is corroded, and so we're replacing that. And that's actually being done, I think, with additional funds from the church. But we're doing all that together so that we can get that behind us, make sure our water supply is safe and not leaking, and then we'll do landscaping, on the side there. missing? What are some of the other things we've talked about that I'm missing? Is that mostly it? Yeah. And so the big decision coming forward is, what do we do about the seismic study? Do we go ahead and fund it? If I recall right, it's close to $50,000. It's a lot of money to get these engineers involved in it. And so we're looking for other bids, but it's likely to be some big number. And then on top of that, if they come back and say, you really need to work on the Mayflower building, or put some shear walls in, or do things like that, we don't believe, most people who have looked at this don't believe we have any significant problems in the sanctuary. It's built, those buttresses and the foundation and stuff, it's a pretty sturdy structure, but we'll have them look at that as well. And once we understand that, then we can start prioritizing again some of the projects after that. But in the meantime, the money's safe. You have really, really good, smart people thinking about it, looking for it. I've really appreciated the dialogue and the questioning that, this is not a Me Too rubber stamp group. Somebody comes up with an idea and it just gets approved. I think they would say, Tom, I think you would agree, healthy discussion on all the issues that have come up. And I think the list that we have for the money that we have available to us seems to match up pretty well. Now, is that all the money that we will ever need to continue? No, that's not all the money we'll ever need. But what we felt like when we conceived this, we looked at, if you think back in the Tooth days, Tooth raised significantly more money, but the church was in a different place then. It was a much larger church. There were more, more pledging members. And so looking at what we felt we could do with a congregation this size, and then hopefully as a stopgap, when the upper hillside is completed, that's going to be a significant source of income for us, because we get lease based on the rental, we get lease on the land based on the rental income of that property up there. And then of course we get a nice new 2-bedroom caretaker's place there, which either could be rented out or used for a caretaker. So we have that source of revenue coming. That will open up opportunities for some longer term things that might have to have a financing component to it or something like that. But we'll cross those bridges, when we come to them. In the meantime, we just want to make sure that we spend this money wisely and spend it on the things that are going to have the biggest impact going forward. Are there questions and things that I can help, or any of the group can help clarify? I love it. Thanks. Go forth and enjoy this beautiful day.